Jimmy, coming off of another loss for the Browns yesterday as they fall to the Chiefs, and it was, I felt like I watched that game like in 2006 or 2001. One of those games where you see the Browns play with a lot of energy against a superior team, and you come away from it and you say, well, it could have been worse. It's not bad. And, the Browns play with a lot of heart and things like that. But, at the end of the day, it's a loss is still a loss. And you see the Browns still have quite a ways to go to be an elite team.
Yeah, I think so. I think they were just handled and really handled by a superior team yesterday with a very, very elite offense. Not such a great defense, but an elite offense, and a team that's probably going to be heard from in the postseason. I wonder about Kansas City. Will that offense be able to carry them deep into the postseason? Or if they have an off day offensively, if the weather was bad and that slowed them down, can that defense pick up the slack? And that's a little bit doubtful. But offensively, boy, you only dream of the Browns having an offense like that. You really do. So you wonder if John Dorsey is responsible for bringing some of those players to Kansas City. And Mahomes is one of them, and I would assume Kareem Hunt is another one that he was involved in. And I don't know about Kelsey and these guys. Sammy Watkins came over this year from the Rams. But I will tell you this. I mean, if John Dorsey had that vision for that offense and then Andy Reid, coordinated it and put it all together, I'm all in on that. Because I think the new NFL, Dino, is, as much as we like to say, well, in the AFC North, you got to play great defense, and you got to run the football, and you got to run it in November, and you got to definitely run it in December. I don't know anymore. That might just be old verbiage, because I think the new NFL and the current NFL is you score. And even the great Bill Belichick, no better defensive brain in the NFL than Bill Belichick. He doesn't have that kind of defense, nor are they capable of playing that kind of defense, but he's got an offense that can outscore you. They're the only ones to beat Kansas City, and it took 43 points and the kick at the last second of the ball game to do that as they won 43-40. So the hope is, here's one point I would say. I think that if the quarterbacks switched teams yesterday, I think that the result would have been the same.
I agree.
I think that Baker Mayfield would flourish in that offense. I think this is a version of what he ran in college and definitely what Mahomes ran at Texas Tech. And I applaud Andy Reid for doing that, for realizing I got a very special quarterback here that came out of a very special system, and I'm going to bring and introduce that system into the NFL. I would be foolish not to make him comfortable, and I have the kind of players that can excel in that offense, and I think that Baker Mayfield can play in that kind of offense.
It was interesting, and you're doing the radio game and doing the play-by-play. On the TV side, you had Bill Cowher, who, of course, how many times, and I laughed about this on Twitter with people, how many times do we hear rumors, Bill Cowher's going to be the next head coach of the Cleveland Browns. Bill Cowher's the next head coach of the Cleveland Browns. He bought a house in Strongsville, and it never happened. But he was saying overly nice things about the Browns during the course of CBS's either pregame or halftime show.
Right.
Bruce Arians was on the call yesterday, and I know he talked to you guys on the pregame show.
He did.
And I know he also talked to Steve Dorchick of the Canton Repository for a little bit. And warm, fond memories of Cleveland.
Right.
If he could be a head coach again, it sounds like he would be all in to be the Browns head coach, especially since, again, the Browns have a quarterback. It makes them attractive. So that's going on, but as I'm watching the Chiefs execute that offense, I'm watching Andy Reid with Eric Bieniemy not more than 3 inches away from him when the Chiefs have the ball on the field. And in my mind, I'm sitting there going, I understand everybody's attraction to the big-name coaches, but I wonder if Bieniemy, won't have a leg up when this becomes a reality in January.
Well, very well could. Now, here's the thing. He's not calling that offense. He's around the offense, obviously. He's primarily been a position coach in his years in the NFL. He's a great running back, and he's a running backs coach for a long, long period of time. He moved up a seat, obviously, when Doug Peterson left, and then Matt Nagy left and took the Chicago Bears job. So, it's been a seat that has led to a head coaching job, at least in 2 instances, being under the wing of Andy Reid. you just wonder. Now, Matt Nagy's doing great things up there in Chicago with Mitch Trubisky, and Doug Peterson won a Super Bowl. You just wonder about the involvement. How deep is he into the offense, or is he just moving up a chair because people have left the job? So that would be the thing. But I definitely think he would be on the radar. There would have to be a comfort factor with him because John Dorsey knows all about him. And there's another guy there. There's an older guy, Dave Tobe, who's the special teams coordinator. Now, by old, I mean under NFL standards now, with these young mid-30-year-old guys getting head coaching jobs. He's in his 50s, but he's been a trooper and he's been around, and he's been really forecast a number of times to become a head coach in the NFL, and it just hasn't happened. There's a combination there that you could say Dave Tobe could be coming as the head coach of the Browns and bring Eric Bieniemy with him to be the offensive coordinator. Because again, now and then you'd have to give Eric Bieniemy another title like associate head coach or assistant head coach, because this would be considered a lateral move. But he would literally be the offensive coordinator. Andy Reid, make no doubt about it, is calling the plays, and in fact sits with Mahomes after every series. He doesn't even go up and watch the defense. He sits on the bench with him. So that's a possibility. But yeah, Bieniemy would be one of these guys. Bruce Arians always wanted to be the head coach of the Cleveland Browns, even when he got fired here and left Butch Davis's staff. He always kept his eye on it. And when he was in Pittsburgh, I can remember many times before the last game of the regular season, which was historically against Pittsburgh, either there or here, Bruce would always come over to Doug Deacon and myself and say, "What's going on over here?" And usually it was, "Well, they're going to fire the guy. They're going to fire the guy across the sideline from you at about 4 o'clock this afternoon." He was always interested in the job because he just liked Cleveland. He liked the situation here. But what he said and what Cowher said in the pregame show, I believe, on CBS, is exactly what the job is. This is a good job now. You got a quarterback. You have Myles Garrett. You've got Denzel Ward. You've got a young running back in Nick Chubb. You need, and you've got a general manager that knows how to get the pieces by trade, by free agency, and certainly in the draft. And it looks like you're going to have a significantly high draft choice once again in the first round. I mean, you're going to be up there because this thing is going to be difficult to win here with all of the injuries they have. And I think that's the scenario right now.
Yeah, the injuries, I mean, the Browns defense, we saw early in the season how good it can be when everybody's there. But it's like you're starting to pluck a grape off the cluster, and you take Joe Schobert off here, and you take Denzel Ward off here, and you take Terrence Newman off there, and I mean, now all of a sudden, Jimmy, it's unfair. You're sitting there, you're going, you're asking these guys to go into their third string guys who normally play special teams, and say, go stop the likes of the Pittsburgh Steelers playoff team, Kansas City Chiefs playoff team, Atlanta Falcons coming up,
red hot team.
It's a tall order for any team, especially a team that's rebuilding the cupboard, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, you're into Denzel Rice now. You're into Tavier Thomas.
Yes.
You're into Tanner Vallejo playing at linebacker. You'll probably get a look at Ray Armstrong this week playing linebacker. They like the name so much they named it twice. They named him twice because, he just joined the team. But, I mean, Kirksey got hurt yesterday. It's very tough. It's unfortunate. They're getting hit on one side of the ball.
Yep.
And that's the hard part. And then if you isolate it even more, they're getting hit in the secondary where they weren't overly stocked anyway. So E.J. Gaines just came back yesterday, and then he goes out again. Ward, we don't know the extent of the hip injury yet, but it's a hip injury, bad for a corner to have a hip injury. We don't know the extent of how deep Randall is hurt, that he wasn't able to play, but he didn't practice at all last week, so he didn't play yesterday. He's been kind of the fix-it guy in the back of the secondary. You're right. I mean, they're on oxygen right now back there, and teams aren't going to say, well, let's give them a break. I mean, they're going to come in here. I don't know if Atlanta's going to run the ball at all.
Right.
They might just throw all day. And they, chances are they could be very successful doing it.
Well, all of a sudden, I mean, they've got obviously Jones, but they love obviously Ridley, the Calvin Ridley, and
they have Mohamed Sanu.
They have Mohamed Sanu, and they're using Coleman, replacing the injured Freeman. They're using him a lot out of the backfield as a receiver, and he's dangerous to stop. Speaking of backs out of the backfield, it was nice to have a Duke Johnson sighting or two yesterday. That was good to see, and obviously maybe a part of Freddie Kitchens now calling the plays.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Freddie was very simplistic about what he did yesterday. I mean, it wasn't a lot of the 2-point conversion. I was not a fan of that.
I wasn't either.
When they did it,
I'm glad you said that.
And how much they did it. I think you chase points all day long. I know Kansas City was lethal with their offense, but I don't think you really had to do that.
Don't do it till you have to.
Yeah, or if you are going to do it, you have to have a fail-safe play that's going to get it done. And those plays were just terrible what they were doing.
Yes.
It's like they drew them up. Anyway, I think I think he was simplistic because that wasn't it's not a great Kansas City defense. Okay, they give up a lot of yards in the running game, and so it's not like they went, ooh, let's fool him.
Right.
I mean, they just said, we're going to run the ball at him. And Nick Chubb was very good. I thought he's really good. I'm very excited about Nick Chubb. And, they give up plays out of the flats, and so they went to Duke Johnson 9 times. He was targeted 9 times. He made 9 catches.
That's great.
So I think it was great. I thought Mayfield looked a little better. If anything, Baker was a little wild on a couple of throws yesterday. I thought Greg Robinson did a really better than professional job at left tackle. I thought he was very good.
I would sit there and say, I mean, I know they're paying Chris Hubbard a lot of money at right tackle. I get that. But you know what? I sat there and I was watching yesterday. I'm like, well, at least now on the left, with the rookie out, you're sitting there and you're going, oh, okay. Greg Robinson, he can do that. He can do this job.
He's the second pick in the draft one year, right?
Right. He can do this job, and I think it gives them something to think about. We'll see how bad Harrison is with this illness, but I thought that was interesting yesterday to see Robinson play well.
If what you're saying is maybe you put Robinson at right tackle and put Harrison back in. If Harrison's healthy, they're going to play Harrison because they're very committed to that, and they want that to continue. And the only way it's going to get better is to play more. Mm-hmm. And I think he's hit a couple of tough spots here the last couple of weeks. Who wouldn't against T.J. Watt?
Everybody does against Pittsburgh.
Bud Dupree and Cameron Hayward and those guys. But I think he would have had a better day yesterday had he been healthy enough to play. I could see that happening. I could see Robinson pushing Hubbard at right tackle.
And I wonder after the bye if maybe then we see Corbett maybe get his first. We've talked about it, depending on at what point they want to give him a look at center and, give Treader a break. Maybe that comes up too.
Right. Treader's had that bad ankle. I don't know if that's going to get better even during a bye week. It's a high ankle sprain. People say it takes a year. Yeah. 6 to 8 months to get better. A football year. I'll put it that way.
Ask Myles Garrett about that.
Ask Myles Garrett about that. Right.
Question from G Money, and he actually did it on Twitter during Donovan Live, and I wanted to save it for you guys here on the show. Jimmy, 9 games in, 2 wins. Hugh is gone, but I'm still puzzled by the trading of Josh Gordon and the cutting of Carl Nassib when you look at the overall talent on the Browns. Help me understand.
I think this. I think Josh Gordon played himself off the team. I think that there was. Now it's interesting because when Josh Gordon was suspended for so long, remember now he wasn't getting paid at all, except for that time he worked at the Chevy dealership, wherever
That's
that
right.
was.
Yes,
okay?
yes.
Anyway, he wasn't making any money. And when you're not making any money and you have this problem of constantly getting suspended, agents, they're not making any money. Players like Gordon then ask their agents, can you float me a loan? And then I'll pay you back when I get paid. But he, with no end in sight, a lot of the agents washed their hands of him. Now, he finally did get an agent this time around. And I believe he got some kind of advice that said, hey, listen, don't show up late, keep bothering them, and they'll have to do something.
Right.
And they're not just going to cut you because they want to get something in return. So they'll trade you.
And a contender, a
contending
team, they want you.
I really believe, that I don't blame the Browns for what they did there because I think he was going to continue to do that. And I think he wanted to get out of here.
Yeah.
Someone advised him how to do it, or he came up with it himself. And although I don't know why he wouldn't have come up with it before this, so I think somebody must have gotten in his ear and said, here's a way to do this.
Right.
And an agent would know the landscape. For instance, an agent could call the Patriots and say, what are you out there looking for? We need a big receiver. Oh, all right, well, I've just signed one.
Let me see what I can do.
I really think that he played himself out of here. or didn't play himself out of here. I think he wanted to get out of here, and I think that's what's going on now. And you just have to move on that. The Nassib situation, that's an interesting situation. I mean, it really came down to two guys, and they ended up cutting both of them.
Right.
They cut Nate Orchard, who was on the Kansas City roster yesterday, and Carl Nassib. There were things I liked about Nassib. I thought that he was very athletic. I never thought that he filled out the way they wanted him to do physically. He was lean and tall, but he had some juice in his tank, and he really played. He had a good motor, as they say, and he got to the quarterback. I have to tell you, I'm a little bit underwhelmed by Ogba's play of late.
Too. Yeah.
There have been a bunch of guys that have disappeared that were there early. Ogba being one. I mean, we dreamed of the tandem of Ogba and Garrett.
Last year.
Coley is not playing as well as I thought he was forecast to play. Ogunjobi has slipped
Very
a little
quiet,
bit, in the last couple of weeks. So I agree with you about Nassib. And I like Nate Orchard. And I just thought he was a great guy, first of all. I thought he was a great guy in the locker room. But I also thought that he played well. He had the play of the training camp and the preseason with that last play he made in Detroit when he jumped up and picked off that pass and ran it back for a touchdown. So that's a very good point, especially about Nassib.
Yeah.
I mean, and he played very well against them in Tampa.
In Tampa Bay. I mean, we all understood the Carlos Hyde thing. I mean, that they wanted to clear the decks for Nick Chubb, and it seems that it's working out well. Nick seems pretty happy, and it's getting some chemistry between he and Mayfield. Okay, fine,
Right.
I get that. And again, the Gordon thing, don't blame the Browns. I get that, but I never understood getting rid of both Nassib and Orchard, and getting guys off the street or guys who had just been cut, and I didn't understand that at the time, and it's tough when you see the Browns play the Bucs and you see Nassib make a sack or whatever, and you just in a losing game, fans just shake their head and go, why isn't he still here? And I'm sure fans yesterday are watching Mitchell Schwartz and Cam Irving and company, and just having more of that. And remember, it's different regimes making different moves,
Right.
but it's hard sometimes when you see guys that you're supposed to home grow as second, third, fourth round picks that you don't necessarily keep after a couple of
Well,
years.
how about their offensive line yesterday?
Right.
I mean, Austin Ryder,
Yep.
former Brown. Andrew Wiley, former Brown. He was on the practice squad. Mitchell Schwartz never should have not been a Brown. Okay.
Thank you.
Cam Irving, former Brown, former top draft choice. 4 of their starting 5 guys. The one little chief was Eric Fisher.
Right. The number 1 overall pick a couple of years ago.
They were all ex-Browns.
Yeah.
I mean, that's unbelievable.
Crazy.
Going back to the Nate Orchard Nassib thing, is I remember, everything kind of blew up when Michael Kendricks, when it was exposed that Michael Kendricks was involved in this insider trading thing, and that blew up a lot of plans. Then in that last cut, when they got rid of Nassib, remember they held on to Nassib for a day, and then got rid of Nate Orchard. Then they brought in guys like Carl Davis, who really has done nothing now.
Yeah.
They brought him in from the Baltimore Ravens, and we're very excited about getting him. They also brought in another guy, and then they brought in this kid, Brian Price, they've brought in. And again, they're not playing and they're not contributing, whereas the other guys were a bit more known quantities, especially with them.
Right.
So it's a good point.
Good stuff, G-Money. Good question. Okay, we'll have time for more questions here later in the week as we start to get ready for the Browns and the Falcons. Election day is tomorrow. Make sure you go vote if you haven't done so. I don't care what party, what issue, just go vote. Go vote.
Absolutely.
That's what we do. Jimmy, have a great night.
Thank
Thanks
you
for coming in late here.
Absolutely.
And for Jim Donovan, I'm Dave DiNatale. Thanks for watching the Donovan Live postgame show right here on WKYC's Facebook Live.